今天的比赛对我们意味着就是复仇之战吧，因为输给了越南队，然后就导致国内的观众们就是很失望。就是今天的话，我觉得我们一定要先把越南队给拿下。然后 SKT 的话，我不希望跟他5-5开，就是他们要么他们爆炸，要么我们爆炸，就是我要跟他们打个你死我活吧。
Welcome back to our continuing coverage of MSI 2017. On stage, our team WE and the GIGABYTE Maroons, who are still looking for a spot in next week's bracket. With a win, GIGABYTE Maroons secure at least a tiebreaker for 4th place, and WE can lock down 2nd if they win here and avoid SKT.
That's kind of a win in itself, given the SKT that we saw earlier today. WE, again, confident to predict them, but then you remember the GIGABYTE Marines ran over this team, and they're going to want to recreate the early game that allowed that big advantage.
Yeah, and Team WE felt quite embarrassed after that one. They do not want to lose this team again, but that's the thing. GIGABYTE Marines has been running over a lot of people in the early games. It's just a matter of whether you've been able to come back in the late game. Can WE control them in the early game, I think, will be the big question for this match.
Well, looking for some revenge here. Let's check out the squads lining up on the wrist. First off, it is representing the LPL, it's Team WE. Top laner 957, Jungle, Kondi, mid lane Xie, bot laner Mystic, support Ben, and Coach Home.
And on the red side from the GPL, it is the aforementioned GIGABYTE Marines. We have Stark in the top lane. Will he draw a Gragas and a Kennen is the question. Levi in the jungle, Optimus in mid lane, Slay the AD carry, and Archie the support.
It does feel like the water cooler moment with this team is the pick ban. It feels like everyone has 3 champions you ban against GIGABYTE Marines to not have the same effect that they've had on basically every team. And I imagine there'll be some disagreement about it. Feels like the Gragas certainly in there. There's Ziggs, and it's kind of, is it Lulu? Is it Kennen? There's a lot of different arguments, and it's so fun to see teams, come up with their own concoction of how to stop GIGABYTE Marines from playing their own game, and GIGABYTE Marines one-up that, have an extra champion, and still play the same style.
Yeah, because GIGABYTE Marines' meta has been a little bit different than others, but it's not like they only play carrier, assassin, mid laners. They've played Lulu mid and been able to win a game. I think the bans that at least you and I have settled on, Papa Smithy, that we'd like WE to have is Gragas, Kennen, and Ziggs, because those are the 3 more unique champions for their style.
Also, because Team WE are on blue side, if you get the Lulu with those 3 bans, you can take it away anyway. So completely agreed, Jat. As long as the Lulu doesn't fall in the hands of GIGABYTE Marines as well, it's win-win.
Well, we've just come off the longest game of MSI 2017. Let's see if this one's a little more fast-paced. I at least expect that on the Marine side, as there's first ban Ziggs for WE. GIGABYTE Marines taking their time with this one, going to ban Kled away from 957.
Yeah, the other side of the coin, the GIGABYTE Marines bans against WE are a little more interesting. I feel like WE have been surprisingly most impressive in the early game with the sort of pick comps that we saw in our previous game, the Ashe, Lee Sin, Syndra kind of comps, where they've kind of looked strong, just finding priority through their mid lane. And Xie, a massive performance on the LeBlanc yesterday as well, so that's another one to think about.
Yeah, Xie has quietly been having a large impact in the mid and late game for these games, doing a bunch of damage in all those late game team fights. Also interesting, they're just taking the pocket picks away from Team WE. They pull out the Kog'Maw even when they don't have protection compositions, and they blind pick the Kled. So really targeted bans on both sides.
No one's playing around with those Karma or Lulu bans so far, so tracking them has sort of been a narrative of its own at MSI 2017. No sign of the Gragas ban either. 1957 could play. Or ban it away.
So that's going to leave Lulu or Karma or both, depending on what GIGABYTE Marines want to do. I have Genius Analyst, though.
Smartest analyst in the room.
I feel like they should ban neither of those champions. And then the question is, how do they want to target the remaining picks? If they want to get rid of Twitch as far as the hyper carry potential for Mystic, since they will be carrying with the Shielder, is one option, but they don't have too many great ways here to ban, so they just ban Ashe.
And it does feel like most people are on either the Twitch side of the coin or the Kog'Maw. And for Mystic, I definitely cement his Kog'Maw as the better of the 2 picks. So they're going to play with fire, potentially still see the Twitch come through. And speaking of first picks, though, will it be, to me, it's the Lulu, because Optimus has shown already that he'll play Lulu mid. So I see the priority of that pick over what the GIGABYTE Marines are putting out. And for now, at least, it seems like Team WE agrees.
Oh, for now, and then 2 seconds later.
Interesting.
Here's the mind game. They're daring GIGABYTE Marines to show their hand with the Karma or Lulu mid right away.
Or both.
Try and comp around that, because that's the thing. If they pick Lulu Karma here, they deny Team WE their support, and then Ben would probably play something like Malzahor or Bard, as Krepo likes to keep bringing up.
And they certainly won't pick both, which certainly some teams would consider, and the priority on the Galio has gone way up. Now, he can sort of maybe live through the Fizz matchups, but of course the flex pick nature of the WE first pick Fizz, which, again, we knew it was going to be up there for the flex picks, but this is very early.
Yeah, I mean, they're flexing on each other because the Galio and the Lulu can also go into a number of different lanes.
Well, it looks like we're going to settle on an AD carry first as Caitlyn for Mystic, so kind of in a very similar vein to the likes of Kog'Maw, and even Ashe in some ways, so Mystic kind of stick to his personal preferences here. I can't say well where WWE don't pick Karma here, but it'll be very interesting to see what they want to select. But I think kind of like maybe, I think they're just thinking through things and saying, you know what, let's make sure we have everything planned for the next phase.
But the question is, are you worried
I'm wrong.
if Lulu Karma comes through from GIGABYTE Marines? Because they don't play through Slay in that manner, and you almost think that it's going to be playing through Levi on maybe a more aggressive dueling jungler than necessarily anything. Now, they do take away the Karma anyway.
Yeah, but you were also seeing what was going through their head right there. They thought, if we don't pick a jungler here, then we're going to get pinched, because the Lee Sin is almost certainly getting banned in the next phase away from Condi, and Levi gets his pick of the litter right here. So the Caitlyn ban is the one thing that's at least a little confusing to me, because they could have just picked a jungler and support there and still had the flexibility of Fizz, but that just shows how much they wanted Caitlyn for Mystic, and they're really going to be trying to shove that bottom lane in early.
And a point that's kind of been overlooked, I think, because Levi has had so many great games. 3 match wins for GIGABYTE Marines in group stages. All 3 of those games on Kha'Zix, surprisingly. It hasn't been the greatest that we've seen great mechanics from. Those are actually the games where GIGABYTE Marines have petered out, and it's been the Kha'Zix that's actually held the 100% win rate. So very interesting to see, taking the Graves in this spot. It's a denial pick from Condi and Source. They also do double ban jungle, but it's not the Kha'Zix that can line up with the Galio and the Lulu and go very deep into the backline.
Yeah, I always wonder if Condi's got an Ivern prepped in his back pocket. Not something he's played much of, but it's definitely a powerful jungler that is still on the board.
Peanut played his first game of Ivern at this tournament, so anything's possible. Condi hasn't played it either, so it's not respected as part of a champion pool, but you could certainly see it given where the pick ban is going. WE could recreate something like G2's comp, where they were running the mid lane Fizz that time, but that's still to be decided where the Fizz is going.
Looks like Marines are pushed pretty far down on the AD carries though, because 2 were banned by WE in phase number 2. Seen some Jhin here and there, but that is going to be the pick from Marines. It's not a super meta AD carry, but I think at this spot, fine.
Yeah, when you're pushed down your tier list of marksmen, especially with the Ziggs being banned already, that does make sense. They're
like
hovering
the
it. They've done a lot of hovers that are logical and then switched off at the last second this draft, so they're trolling us. There it is, locked in.
Oh, look at it, Condi! Gonna make an appearance on Ivern. This is a champion that does not suit his playstyle, but he's saying, you know what, I think my team needs this, I'm gonna pick it. I'm gonna confirm, maybe support Karma here as well with Shie's last pick. His Tilly has been very impressive, and they lock it in.
Yeah, and as much as this is a protection comp because of the 2 shielders, it's absolutely a shoving comp that just tries to kill turrets. The Talia wants to unlock the mid lane and roam around, and the Ivern is, I feel like, the best jungler for actually setting up sieges in lanes that they can then outnumber the opponent with the Talia.
This might be one of the first games where GIGABYTE Marines won't have those pushing lanes that we know. It feels like there's a lot of pressure on the side of Team WE, so pushing in and then roaming with something like the Weave as well is an availability. GIGABYTE Marines do have access to Syndra as a last pick, so can potentially just try to delete GA from the laning phase equation and get power there. But it's not Ziggs Lulu bot lane, it is the Jhin who very frequently, and certainly against this lane, will be pushed in. And if the Fizz has kill pressure and Talia starts to shove, WE do have some interesting options as well.
Yeah, this is going to be a fascinating game as far as whether or not WE can get an early advantage or whether or not GIGABYTE Marines can force the pace of game onto Team WE. When we hear Frost Curran describe this matchup, he was expecting Team WE to be totally fine with it, because Team WE is totally used to teams just throwing themselves recklessly towards them in the LPL, and they do fine, yet they definitely weren't fine in their first matchup here at the MSI group stage.
No, certainly not. If we're looking for WE to get things done early, there is really only one vessel that can be carried through. It is Condi, and he's on Ivern. But I'm just so curious to see, can he get aggressive? Because yes, Ivern, good counter jungler, strong farmer. We have a lot of free time while you're waiting for your camps. And if Condi wants to go nuts and try and visit lanes over and over and over again, he can. I just don't know if it's the best thing to do on Ivern.
And even something as simple as Condi's pathing, because we've certainly seen Peanut kind of boggle minds with his early pathing on the Ivern, and Svenskeren go for a different tact in his game. Now we get to see another person with a new viewpoint on Ivern in another region where Ivern has been much lower priority than some of the LCS regions.
Exactly, and Team WE also preparing for the long game right here. They have the bracket stage already secured. Yes, they want to secure the top 2 seed with the win here, knowing they have SKT at the end of the day, but they have the freedom to experiment and deviate from the norm a little bit more than GIGABYTE Marines do.
Well, we'll see what happens here. Moving out to the rift as Condi skipping along, and Ivern even pops up the flare, so he's feeling good here for the WE's first game of the day.
Marines once again going for a bot lane carry who doesn't want to hard commit, doesn't really talk about positioning so much. It's much more of that long-range artillery. Not quite the Ziggs, but very much going to be Jhin out of the fight. But it's certainly not these double dive-in assassin comps with a Galio. It's a very different structure of Galio comp for GIGABYTE Marines.
They very much have to play, you'd think, more standard, sit back and siege and kind of have that disengaged game. Not a great way of starting fights. You have maybe Slay opening up with an ultimate and then hopefully Stark gets a flank TP. Not the same type of reliability as you mentioned.
And that's one of those weird situations where did you win the draft because you forced GIGABYTE Marines to go more standard and thus not go to their gameplay that they've played basically every time? Or will GIGABYTE Marines show us a new dimension of their play and answer some of the critics who say, if you're not going one way aggressively, then you're not the same team?
Yeah, based on on my subjective opinion, I think Team WE did win this draft because GIGABYTE Marines didn't get their primary choices. They don't necessarily have as many tools as we're used to in forcing fights. And Team WE also has the shoving lane. So that's so many things going in your favor.
Great early vision, though, from GIGABYTE Marines, making sure they track this Ivern early. WE snuck 3 people into the bottom lane, which is a little funky. Level 1 not quite working out for them. Levi, though, on the blue buff, going to start that one off. Optimus and Archie actually taking Raptors up. We're at it again. It's time for the GIGABYTE Marines patented lane swap. Well,
that's one way to get out of what is a Terra laning phase for Lulu and Jhin, but again, we've seen this so many times now.
Yeah, but I have to point out Ivern right now for Condi. He did not have intel at level 1. He's trying to do a steal. He's going to see that it is not to be, and that's going to slow down his jungle path a lot. Not to mention,
so much damage. Last shot coming in. Invitational ignited there. First blood again for GIGABYTE Marines.
He didn't skill E. He skilled too early at W.
How do you not prep for a lane swap against the GIGABYTE Marines? Team WE prepped their pick and bans beautifully and then forgot about it during the game. This is the 4th game GIGABYTE Marines have lane swapped, and not only does he not expect it, he skilled a spell before he saw an opponent, something you should never do in a solo lane.
But think about all the factors together, Jack. Remember, we saw at level 1, they went bot lane, they had no information at all. We could see from the Ivern pathing that they had no read on what was happening, and it's just all along the line, not thinking about the lane swap that, again, has been their dominant strategy so far.
And we talk about early games. Somehow, GIGABYTE Marines find a way. Not only do they get that first blood up the top side, but also Condi's Ivern jungle path is ruined. He did a blind invade into the blue buff and didn't find a blue buff there. And that top lane is going to get interesting because 957 just came back lane. He still doesn't have
level 1. They're actually going to tower dive him here. Slade needs a couple more bullets. Ignite is down. That's not going to be enough. Flash from Slade, and he missed.
He autoed and tried to flash away with his 4th shot, but hit a minion. And now he has level 2, so he's got his E. They can't dive this again safely.
Either it was an attack move or just a misclick, but really big mistake for GIGABYTE Marines.
There's playable tricks of a 957, going to run them off this turret and try and get some CS. Still hurts, though.
Watch Ivern.
Going to land.
Ivern's here.
Big wraparound, but actually Optimus is up here as well. There's Talia. Shot not going to miss, but Archie takes out 957 and Slade, trying to get out from under the turret.
The pace that GIGABYTE Marines are forcing onto Team W right now, and the inability to respond to the lane swap, because we got to see lane swaps reach a very polished point about a year ago, and you can see that polish is completely gone for Team WE. They are not over pushing the bottom side turret. They're trying a little bit, but they've just given up 2 kills under the turret.
I mean, teams know how to play in standard lanes right now, just like how 6 months ago, 9 months ago, teams knew how to play lane swaps. And it's just comical that things keep going so well for the GIGABYTE Marines. This time Xia and also the Ivern were there to try and answer, but the turnaround damage comes. Xia has to back away.
We're still going. Condi not called by Optimus. Stark actually TP'd down. That's a very respectful flash for Condi, but I don't know what he was doing there.
Yeah, that was also one of the most GIGABYTE Marines things they could do. They had a Galio on the bottom lane that can wave clear and keep that turret alive, and they teleport him to the mid lane river at level 3. So they're probably going to lose this turret pretty shortly, or at least a lot of damage onto it.
I mean, is this just the 5-day schedule of the group stages of MSI, because there's going to be 4 days of downtime, but you would have said the same thing when we were prepping for TSM versus GIGABYTE Marines. Go back, watch the VODs, you'll learn. They didn't really feel like they did that. They lost that first match, and now we're here seeing that GIGABYTE Marines just keep returning to a strategy that they've done day in, day out, and teams still cannot be this surprised at the highest level and have basically no idea of what's happened.
Exactly. The mind struggles to find explanations a little bit here because clearly GIGABYTE Marines did prep for this team. They had the target bans that everyone was calling for, and it's happened so many times. You watch the other teams compete and you see a lane swap. What does your team talk about? Oh yeah, we haven't seen that in a while. Let's discuss what we would do in this situation to prevent this from beating us. Obviously, not very much has happened from that. 957 still level 5 over Stark's level 4, but it's the 2 deaths and the gold lead early on for GIGABYTE Marines.
Trading back and forth. They've actually swapped back to 2v2, but Jin's got an early kill and an assist for a quick serrated Dirk here, so certainly combat advantage looking good, although Karma equalizing that a bit with a nice poke there from Ben. I mean, I feel like WE did some prep of their own. That 3-man invade down to the bottom lane looks pretty rehearsed. They're expecting a very specific thing to happen, but getting no vision feels a little weird against GIGABYTE Marines, and they got punished. Only not much of a gold lead at all, but GIGABYTE Marines again, just how many times are we going to say, they won't do it again? Yeah,
and I will say the GIGABYTE Marines did give away a lot of the advantage they suffered early with that teleport into the top lane river. Stark gave up an XP advantage over to 957, and now 957 is actually going to be fine in that lane despite suffering 2 early casualties. And Mystic will have the CS lead over Slay since they spent so much time diving. So they did create a lot of space in which to play with, and they gave some of it back with that teleport.
Really interested to see how the Fizz versus Scalio matchup will continue to track with sort of even item timings or maybe even 957. I think as item spikes first feels like a matchup we might see a lot moving forward today and in the bracket stage, and Spin 1 hasn't necessarily been visited too far this tournament.
See, finally 1v1, even on experience. 957 with his Ignite ready. Stark though with his flash, and no TPs anyway, because 957 did want to get back to that lane pretty quickly. Blue though over to Optimus, looks good there. Mid lane slightly behind in CS, but she doing exactly what he wants to do here, just power pushing this lane.
And in all the madness, nice control ward on the right side, and so much vision for WE down the bot side river with the pushing lane we talked about. Now that we're finally getting 2v2 is the sort of comfort that was expected come draft phase. There was that big curveball the first 4 to 5 minutes, but now bot lane in a great spot.
Condi here actually in top lane, good! Ulti and back flash from Stark. Condi looking in there, Talia's roamed up as well. 957, a well-earned kill.
Yeah, and that was the experience advantage paying off right there. He hits level 6 first, doesn't even need to burn his Ignite. They brought a lot in case Stark was able to dodge some of that damage. And I also liked how Mystic and Ben temporarily backed off from the bottom lane because when they roamed up, they saw Raptors were still alive, which then they could intuit that Levi was probably on the bottom side of the map. And once again, that's why they're recalling here, because there is so much chance of them getting dove.
WE, they've had a couple of games where the first 5 to 8 minutes, I think back to the game against G2 yesterday, opening game of the day, where they've gone even or made some mistakes early, but it feels like 8 to 20. They make a lot of smart decisions when they have tools to try and execute in the early game. We were talking about pushing and roaming. We've seen that from Xia a couple of times already. So far, it's like their macro play, again, with the big caveat of not expecting the lane swap at all, has been the WE we expected coming into this game.
Well, bottom lane actually pretty big lead. Also Mystic and Ben smartly recalling, but 20 CS and counting despite the early gold onto Slay, who's gone very swiftness boots for whatever reason. You can see the gold itself is actually even, but Mystic, if this is how the lane's going to go, he will grow an organic lead pretty quickly, actually.
Yeah, I agree. The swiftness boots on Jin was relatively common when Jin was meta. A lot of it has to do with having the 4th shot and being able to get it onto an opponent. Because when people see you with that, they like to back off, and when you have the small movement speed advantage on them, you more than likely get it off. Or he just uses blast.
We'll see. Mystic just again shooting minions down. Double warlords actually on both these ADs. Jin, I think very common to take that Keystone now. Caitlyn, I think Jury might still be up, but Mystic, I know he does love this Keystone quite a lot. Does use it on the likes of combo, which we saw yesterday.
Death by Grass, not a priority anymore.
Bad days.
The AD nerf, Arch takes a lot of damage.
Actually out of poly mode now, so Mystic might look for something. Good flash for Lulu, ace in the hole ready, but Slayer should be able to block that. Might just use it for poke this turret again. About 40% health now, so the lead's growing in CS, but also this turret's taking a lot of hurt.
I've been convinced with some of the 2v2 laning for Slay and Archie. Yesterday, of course, Slay dying to ignite after he flashed away. It's not the Ziggs, it's not this other type of laning phase, and it's not the lane swap either. And then just a pure 2v2. I don't know if that flash is necessary much.
Yeah, and they're just getting destroyed at this phase in the laning. And WE has recovered from the chaos of the early game, and now they're executing their game plan. You got to see the dive top lane, you get to see the strong ward control from the Ivern while they shove up, and actually the perfect timing on the rotation from the Ivern. The next wave, they can just walk in, throw a brush in front of the turret and take it.
Well, Levi's decided that a few minutes have passed and no one has died, so he's going to try and make something happen here in the top lane. Great ward in the brush, so he's going to spot it. Well, then maybe a dive is getting started in. 957, pretty tricky to kill.
Yeah, and this is about playing smart as well. 957 wasn't going aggressive in that lane while his jungle was on the other side of the map. So Team WE, aside from the tomfoolery that got pulled early on in the game, is recovering quite well.
Got drawn into the madness, it felt like a little bit, but have restabilized here. And Saka and Levi are going to hang around, but no cannon creep in. 957 alone, but Condi sprinting up towards topside to try and help him out.
Good mobility, could ult for wave clear, but just trusting that Condi will be there at the right time. Speaking of ult, though.
Yeah, Talia. Well, already onto Stark. Damage is huge from the Fizz, and there she is to try and finish up the kill. 957 gets credit once more. Now Levi falls to fight. Optimus is here. Looking for 957, but it's not quite enough damage. Levi over the collateral damage. He's going to finish it off, and Archie's here as well, because why not? Ben also rowing up for the team, and now Mystic's thinking about joining as well.
1-for-1, Jin still in the bot lane, won't be responding. Caitlyn actually rotating, probably going to cancel going top lane, going to go to the mid, so 80 carries trade farm, and just a 1-for-1 across the map for WE and GIGABYTE Marines.
Yeah, and I like the beginning of this play, having the Talia to come in and get the quick execution onto Stark, but then they pushed pretty far forward and didn't necessarily track Optimus with his Ghost, get a trade kill back almost immediately. Cute little thing at the end of this, watch Optimus kidnap Daisy as he walks towards it. You can do this as Syndra and just very easily get the 50 gold if you want by throwing it on the ground.
Daisy is going to be very confused at the end of that one, moving about 4,000 units in that interaction.
Well, you see Mystic actually did manage to move away from his potential roam top and go mid. I think this is actually where he wants to sit anyway. Already taken the tower. Mystic pretty strong early on. Double dagger and a load of early AD is nice as Candy, no, Archie moves around it. It's actually can't take it anyway because Condi stole away the blue. See who managed to move in there. Maybe Mystic decides to take it, and you can see she already moving in towards top lane. Optimus is there, at least briefly. It looks like the full rotation is in effect now for WE.
Exactly. Keep moving that Caitlyn around the map and try and get turrets down. Executing this very quickly. They can even move them up to the top lane because it's all about Xie being able to turn the tides on any of those lanes they're trying to push.
Good little flash there from Ben, making sure he stays safe. Good combo started there by GIGABYTE. Trying to get the GW snap. On the slow land again. There's the root. Optimus flashes out of the way, but Essenhol's going to continue. Damage is good. She flashes over, and there's the shot. Ben actually. Credit for the kill. It's now Stark going to try and turn it back around. Flash torn, fires through, but Condi now knocked up with a Justice. But damage still there, but Condi has so many shields. A 957 going to come in and try and win this handily. Oh, WE finds Slay with the fish. Levi though still fighting on the other side. GIGABYTE Marines a little too low. Slay still fighting up, but she actually died in the taunt start. He's going to go down on the other side as Mystic gets credit for those kills. Huge double empower. Oh, Mystic over the wall. Look at her, just clean it all up. Q's not going to find Levi though, and Slay now going to try and snipe one down. 957 takes a couple hits, gets out of the way. Good little trickster, and Ben takes the last shot.
Yeah, and when you count the corpses at the end of it, it's actually very close, even though it looked like GIGABYTE Marines were caught completely off guard. Slay's Butcher Swiftness wants it!
Condi says no! 957 threatens, and now Daisy's out for the 4v2. They get 5 as Mystic also putting pot shots in. Slay really wanting to take somebody down. The aggressiveness still there in the blood of GIGABYTE Marines.
Execution on both teams, I think, was a little bit off there. A lot of over-aggression, then pull back. Only a 1-for-1, I believe, over the course of all of it, but it was such an extended fight. There may have been another kill snuck in there. End result, though, will just return to normal, which has been WE slowly chipping down this mid lane outer turret as we do get a replay.
Yeah, and Team WE are running a low damage team composition with heavy shields that has a lot of late game scaling, and then damage reduction comes in for Galio, and he's a very tanky dude after he has his taunt on. The damage reduction, not to mention Lulu, so that's one of the reasons the fight goes on for so long. With that being said, Team WE have the numbers advantage, so they want to continue on to GIGABYTE Marine.
And it's a big numbers advantage because one is already dead and Levi's kind of dueling with Mystic and then woefully out of position. So we return to the fight. There's the answering first kill, so it is a delayed 2-for-1 for WE, given that Syndra had already died right at the start.
Yeah, and Mystic wanted so much more after the empowered Karma Q landed, but wasn't quite able to get any crits down the stretch. Got an Infinity Edge now, though, to help that case.
Well, also, you can see it in the replay, mid turret did go down to WE, so continuing to use this strong Caitlyn. Infinity Edge already done for Mystic, working on a Zeal pretty quickly, and does have very efficient early items here. I mean, GIGABYTE Marines, for all the fighting they're doing, and as close as a lot of these exchanges are, if they just keep losing turrets, it's kind of not going to matter.
Yeah, the game has gone like we expected with the pushing lanes and actually being able to rotate. It's been clean from WE, again, in spite of an early game that perhaps can be adjusted with just a single VOD review and a single team discussion. Otherwise, it's been the WE that was expected to head to the Rift the first time these two teams met, and certainly not the GIGABYTE Marines rolling over WE in the same fashion as the first round.
Yeah, and I think the Ocean Drake is really good for Team WE right now because they have such good disengage and very good shielding on that team. As long as they don't actually die, their ability to stick around and continue to siege turrets is going to be really hard with GIGABYTE Marines to keep up with, since they have such low amounts of good initiation.
957 in a spot of bother, but again, playing safe. Nice ward. Swept away by GIGABYTE Marines, but does keep 957 safe. Mystic's still mid lane here. Condi looking for a root caller, doesn't get it. Nice Ghostblade pop for Slay for the extra movement speed. You can see Shie down bottom with his level 2 ultimate, so WE trying to spread this map around. GIGABYTE did get a tower thanks to Optimus as the root caller hits Stark, so only 2-for-1 now in turrets in favor.
And WE are playing around their strong side. They had littered control wards on the bot side of the map, whereas all the vision of GIGABYTE Marines was around the Fizz, and 957 so far has had great top lane sense to back away whenever his team have been going on these aggressive missions on the other side of the map, and allows Shia to just free push and basically get them pressure around the enemy blue, which probably is the next objective they're looking at, and just have Galio there accountable for wave clear.
Well, looks like Shie and WE do have quite a bit of gold to spend at this point. They're going to cut somebody off. Stark can't get him off the wall. Ryan's in, looks for Archie, but he zips over the other side. Slay gonna dodge the seismic shot. No dice on that play.
Yeah, slim margins right there. Being able to make it on the other side of the wall. Still would have had flash if you're Archie and he gets caught away. Appreciate the attempt by Stark to knock him off the Weaver's wall, but play doesn't quite materialize there for Team WE.
Something's happening every time. They get the control, they steal away the blue buff. No Drake spawning for a couple of minutes. That was the only objective. They were prepping all these whole wards to claim, apart from Shia picking up farm. They back away, they reset. So far, they're moving with their vision line, which is exactly what you want to see from a contending team at MSI.
Great timing on the recalls left from Shie as Condi steals away the blue, and he gets the candy right as he goes back. Shie, though, now with the Leander, whose Tormo finish, didn't have it for that last little roam attempt, but only going to get stronger as things continue. And Mystic parked in mid lane, just taking the farm as it kind of calmly sweeps towards him.
Yeah, and there's a good scaling component on Team WE as well, so they're very much a turret kill team, but that's in tandem with their scaling. They're doing a pretty good job of it so far.
I think we've seen like a lot of this style combo. We saw it yesterday with the, I think, Kled Fizz. It was definitely Kled plus Assassin with a Cogmore with not too much protection. So WE, they are comfortable with this kind of combo. Protection as Mystic got cut off by Levi. Condi flash shields to try and protect him, but Ben caught out as well. Gallioti coming in, and Levi back over the wall with a quick drop, but Archie already so long. Mystic snipes him barely with an auto attack, and now 957 dives to the back and takes down Optimus. Daisy so troublesome for the rest of the team. I mean, Levi and Saga is busy fighting him, and now Shia is going to try and pick one up. Sharp again going to miss, but the damage is there. 957 dives back in, Stuck just as punches out for the dash. Still got to be careful. Slay with a good amount of damage to Stark. Lines up the taunt. Has flash, but doesn't commit. There's a flash out top side for Levi getting out, but 2 kills there for Waterley despite the start.
And we mentioned how GIGABYTE Marines have such a hard time starting fights against this sieging team. Levi is trying to be so creative. He waited in that brush for what felt like 30 seconds, and for the fight to still not go over to GIGABYTE Marines, it's got to be quite disheartening.
And that's why we're complimenting WE for playing with their vision line, for moving their wards and playing around it, because that never really happens against the GIGABYTE Gigabyte Marines because they blitz you early, and then the map is in disarray and their assassin play works. That's been their game plan time and time again. No, not many teams have had a consistent ward line and played around it, and that's why Gigabyte Marines have to make low percentage plays just to make things happen.
Team W want to go into Talia.
A little risky, perhaps. Levi already started. Archie going to get trapped in, but Stark's here as well. 957. Polymorph taking a little too much damage. Great double taunt for Stark to continue the CC chain. W there snares up 957, but missing just too much. Takes out Levi. Taro not going to last too much longer, but Slay keeping them out.
Slay so close to getting a lot of these last hits, but unable to finish it off. There's still Optimus down in the bottom lane, so that's why W was so confident trying to go for that play.
Continuing, no, WE going to stick around for just a wave, actually. Maybe a bit more damage. Mystic feeling an Ocean Drake regen starting to kick in.
Yeah, Ocean Drake, every time they're out of combat for 5 seconds with champions, and they will still have the shield when Gigabyte Marines try and re-engage.
Yeah, the maximum that can be here is 3 from the side of Gigabyte Marines, given that Syndra is bot and Levi was dead, so overtime, they will use their range to take down this turret. So percentage play from WE, and
oh, great shove on the Archie. Huge amount of burst
kills too.
Growth. Recall it down. Archie almost getting snapped up, and Stark also pretty low. Slay gonna try and trick them there as a redemption goes down to reset it all. Syndra a little late to this one if he wants to make it. Levi coming up as well, but WE take the turret, look for a kill, but back off.
have all 5 members of Gigabyte Marines standing in front of you while you poke down their turret. You've got the game controlled, and that's what not many teams have been able to. This is Gigabyte Marines making such a low percentage play, camping a brush for 30 seconds, because so far the game has been controlled after that early craziness. The fight, it could only go the way of WE from the early gold advantage.
Yeah, Levi got 75% of Mystic's health before Team W was able to retaliate, and retaliate they did is the thing, so it's really going to be hard. They need to find more ways to burst Mystic as he gets stronger and stronger.
I mean, Mystic is accelerating very quickly in this game. 3-0-1 on kills. A second Zeal already built up with Hurricane and IE done. Plus the tier 2 boots. I mean, he's had some good shoves here and there. His ganks haven't been that successful. He's not sitting on that much gold, and 957's actually built very defensively to start this game off. So it's kind of all on Mystic here to get things done in the mid game, and he is making it work.
And he's super fed. 3-0-1 with 10 CS per minute, on top of having some of the best support you could ask for from the Karma and the Ivern. I mean, Team W is absolutely set up for success. They're playing their draft, and you couldn't really ask for more out of your AD carry early on in the game.
Yeah, the battle between the burst and the shielding is being handedly won by the shielding. One of the reasons why we expected the shielding meta to come through is fighters in the top lane and shields being so powerful. There isn't necessarily the backline dive, the backline threat to damage through shields, and when the shields are ahead and also the DPS is ahead, there's very little options for Gigabyte Marines apart from control wards and getting a single pick.
And the only thing that I would potentially question about picking Ivern in this game is whether or not it was worth it, because the fact that a lot of people were questioning whether Ivern was in Condi's champion pool, you would want to surprise someone with the practiced Ivern strategy in a meaningful game. Wait until they play SKT again and try and get that Ivern off, but at the same time, they still want to make sure they're top 2 and they still want to have a good show.
And that's the thing, is what if I told you that you could play Ivern and not have to play SK Telecom till the grand final? Was that a trade worth making? Because of course the single victory here does cement them second place, and thus eludes the tournament favorites for the longest time.
Well, you can see WE with a solid lead here at 23 minutes, about 4K up or so, and a lot of that's in Mystic's pockets right now. 2,500 gold ahead of Slay, which is a lot. It's only ticking up further. Infernal Drake was picked up by them. The next one's an Infernal, in case the cadence of the game was a little difficult for WE to understand. They can now kind of ramp up as the Drakes allow them. And again, splitting across the map, making sure Mystic always has the safe farm, and these turrets, or Gigabyte Marines, or both, are looking to fall pretty quickly.
Trying to rush onto this mid lane inner turret as well. No defense here from Gigabyte Marines.
Good fight, but a good shot back in onto Slay. Mystic just dish out damage. There's Stark though. Get a 3-man taunt. Mystic throws so many shields to hide in. Little low. Oh, Levi almost snaps with the ulti, but still enough healing. The fish out there for defense. The turret already dead. And Shea looking for something here as well with the wall, perhaps.
Mystic was tanking the turret. Gigabyte Marines is super sad right now because they threw everything and the kitchen sink at Mystic, still lost their turret.
Yeah, the kitchen sink's not good enough at the moment, Jet. There's nothing that right now can take down Mystic. The item timings are not there. The standard color points like Caitlyn falling off in the mid game are not relevant when you're this far ahead of your opposing number. And of course, a lot of Jin's itemization has been nerfed over the course of the spring season. So WE close to being able to smother GIGABYTE Marines out of the game, but something like a Baron could certainly be a variable to throw a wrench in the works.
Yeah, but aside from the lane swap, it does feel like Team W has been ready for everything the Marines throw at them. They keep Ben back to ward against the Baron sneak, and now they're moving towards the mid lane. They might try and fight this. 957's got a teleport available. They instead take the passive play.
Again, and that's been a lot of how W have played this game. I feel like even in the item builds, you look at how tanky 957 is early, how selflessly GA is built, because he doesn't have really any MR against the Syndra apart from the Merc Tread. Everything's kind of coming together to make sure Mystic could have a game that looks this good. And to his credit, he's got it now. 3 items finished at the RFC done. Mystic is set up to hard carry this game.
And I think it's worth tracking that 957 has had kill pressure, or at least lane pressure, on someone with superior wave clear with just a Sheen. He's been able to go tanky because he doesn't need the Trinity Force to have what he needs. What he needs, not necessarily solo kill pressure, it's the doubt, it's the positioning on the Galio, and that part has been a big success. Plus he's tanky enough to team fight and tussle in the backline.
All right, not so much on that play for GA. Plus goes over, good stuff for Optimus, but TP down for GIGABYTE Marines will cancel there for Stark.
It was Shie who hit the blast cone over. It wasn't a teammate troll, right? So
I believe
he only
so.
has himself to blame.
Well, oopsie on that one. Gonna flash back over, so won't have it for the next engagement, but settle things down here for W as they are at least doing a nice job wresting control of this side of the map. That's where they want to be. Drake's up for a few minutes, and Baron control, especially with the Caitlyn looking this big. Enough damage deals to try and get it down as Condi caught again. Shield's gonna keep him safe. Lock it burn, but Redemption's still up, and of course Lulu's got her ulti. You're gonna get through a lot here for GIGABYTE Marines to try and take somebody down.
Now you don't have to respect the Syndra burst because Unleashed Power was used to start things
Watch
up.
this
Shia.
again. Condi, no!
Oh!
Traitor. At least he shielded him after the fact.
Look at him, he's like, ah, man, that was a mistake. All right, fights on though. GIGABYTE Marines still running back towards their turrets. Mystic snared up. Not too bothered. It looks like a siege is the option here for WE. GIGABYTE Marines do not have their teleport for their top laner at 957, putting so much pressure at bottom and mid lane.
1 point there. Galio will rotate over, trying to make sure that heroic entrance is a possibility, but 957 grouping with his team, so wants to hold on to that teleport. All the other resources, though, will go the way of Team WE in the jungle of the GIGABYTE Marines.
Yeah, and they can still continue to set up these sieges. They're just being diligent about getting the vision control within the jungle and hitting those item power spikes with the Rylai's being completed on Shie as well. So no need for them to force something too heavily, and they also don't have the ability to force too hard. They need to be careful about the way they set up, get their push on the turret, take it down.
Look, very controlled hit. Good little wall there as well to cut off a couple members there from GIGABYTE Marines. Tower gonna go down, Brush goes in. Part of why it's so frustrating to play against Talia, Ivern, Caitlyn.
Artificial terrain of multiple types makes your job and your chances of making what is a low percentage engage even lower. So in the end, GIGABYTE Marines predictably back away, unable to claim anything. Another objective adds the stats of WE, and while it may not be a game-winning gold lead, does definitely feel like 6,000 gold, and just where this game is at suits WE to a T.
Even Last Whisper completed 27 minutes in for Mystic. That means Stark will not have the greatest of frontline presence. Only thing that would make Mystic stronger is if he had gone with Fervor instead of the Warlord's Bloodlust for the damage, since he has so many shields, but still has the extra sustain and healing from Warlords. And now, since they have some decent wards in the top side, they can just wait on Shie's ultimate cooldown from Talia and do the same thing with a second tier turret in the bottom side.
Going to help with their game time, but it is the sort of methodical play that's got them back into a game where they certainly misscouted at level 1. So the methodical play is allowing them to cement a lead. There's just nothing GIGABYTE Marines can do. It does feel like they are being smothered out of the game, and Infernal Drake, to add to the earlier one, is perfect for the side of Mystic.
There we go. Make it double. Mystic himself actually picking up the Drake.
Closing in on a frame horizon of his own over his opposite number.
And one of the big things I actually like about the way WE have drafted this game is this kind of comp just really prevents GIGABYTE Marines from doing the thing they want to do. And like, it's so frustrating to see them engage and not get kills, but that's exactly what this comp does. And WE back up to their sieging tricks again, and GIGABYTE Marines are like, hands on head, what do we do?
Yeah, and a lot of teams have tried to play this absorbing style against GIGABYTE Marines and counter their engages, but for the most part, GIGABYTE Marines engages have been too good, and they've had too many tools to pull off the engages, and they play too fast. But Team WE slowed down the game, took the tools away, and they're reaping the reward.
Oh, great little shot there. Slaying it low, has to flash. Hiroko just burst straight in front of it as well, but Turret does go down 957. Looking for something here. Already used the pitch, he's diving into the backline, stuck dead there as he can't quite get up from the rest of the team. GIGABYTE Marines in full retreat once more. Optimus again getting shoved in. Does have his flash. Good stun there into 957 is going to keep things a little better, but Daisy's out. Siege going to keep going.
Waiting for the minion wave before they attempt to break the base at 29 minutes. Answering Redemption.
Beautiful seismic shove there from Xie to get that fight started, and they cut off Levi temporarily.
Daisy's in. So going to move forward, jump in onto a carry. Optimus going to get polymorph, but he's going to dive into the backline. Xie takes out Slay with a shove, and 957 still living for a little while longer. So many shields missing, unstoppable. Takes one down. That's an ace for WE.
Frontline Caitlyn is enough to end the game, you'd have to imagine, for Team WE. 957's tankiness bought the time, and the skill shot accuracy from Xie won the game.
And Team WE just continues to scale up as this tournament progresses. They are destroying the Marines, and this will be a 30-minute win.
The Elder Dragon team's getting stronger and stronger. 35 minutes not needed this time. Make it about 30 as WE destroy the Nexus turret. Mystic far forward, shooting the open Nexus. WE clinch second and take down the GIGABYTE Marines.
Amusing thing about that reference, the Elder Dragon team, that was the scouting report on them in China. It's not necessarily been the scouting report on them over at this tournament. They've been much more controlled in the early game. Certainly one of the better early game teams, and so frequently they are getting these wins pre-35 minutes.
The vast majority of their games have been fast, and the big worry for this team and for fans of this team coming in was the fact that their early game would be weak, and they have completely devoted themselves to playing faster, figuring out how to end the game, and this a very strong style for them. Mystic has been so strong in the laning phase. They get everything to support him, and they take it to a quick and decisive win.
Often the teams that are contenders are the ones who can adapt to a tournament meta, and it feels like so many teams haven't been sure what the tournament meta is. Some teams are trying to make their own tournament meta, like the GIGABYTE Marines, but it feels like WE over time has kind of scouted out. They've worked out that the early game power needs to largely be there. You cannot go fully late game or fully early game. They've worked around their limitations. They moved their vision so soundly that Levi had to camp a brush for 30 seconds to get the same sort of impact that he was getting on demand in so many of GIGABYTE Marines games. And you see the smiles from the WE squad. They're well-deserved. They're guaranteed second place. And maybe they finally are the contender with first anointed the Flash Wolves pre-tournament.
And I love Conti there, smiling, looking happy, waving at the crowd. First Ivan game, I believe, ever, at least for this season. He did less than 2,000 damage and had 12 assists only.
100% kill participation, and the most important stat, the win.
Yeah, looking good there. And with that win, Team WE has secured second seed in next week's bracket stage. Dash, tell me more.
Sure thing, Pastry. Jat's got it right. The most important stat is the W. They secure second seed for this LPL squad. Important to note, GIGABYTE's not out of it yet, so they still have the opportunity to strike back later in the day. Let's look at how WE crafted this victory, though. Starting in champ select, priority 4957, the first pick Fizz.
Yeah, and blind picking it. So really calling out Stark, saying that you don't have an answer there. They did go for the Galio, though. I like the idea with the Galio on top of the lane swap, just because Galio would be able to wave clear so effectively, but then they didn't use it. They lane swapped, they got 2 cheeky kills, and they swapped it back, and it just got crushed.
I think if you look at the composition that GIGABYTE Marines drafted, it's kind of a 4-1, right? And if that gets stuck against the Taliyah in the mid lane, I think it's a great way to keep these guys in check in the early game. A lot of their power comes from these roams. Like time and time again, we see like 5-man bot, like 4-man rotations here. And you can't really do that against a champion that can push you in so easily and chase you relatively safely as Taliyah. And he has shown throughout the tournament that he's such a great Taliyah player. So I think that actually was a key pick for Team WE.
I think it was, and I think another key pick for WE was the Jhin for the other team, because I think that this champion, it just doesn't work really very well in the meta right now.
Or their style, right?
Exactly. Like, their style was all about, we talked about it before, about pushing lanes, about getting the pressure, of allowing Levi to have access to the opponent's jungle, because they always have the pressure. Jhin does the exact opposite, and not only that, but when you're playing against a multiple shield team, you lose so much effectiveness on the ultimate because you don't actually get the people low with your original bullets. So you don't get the execute from your force shot to ever actually kill anyone. Like, the Jin ultimates were hilariously ineffective.
But Azale, he got first blood.
Got first blood. That was hype.
First blood. Frost, you got some thoughts here?
Yeah, and the fact that the shield comp was slowing down was the Ivern. And the big thing is that was the first Ivern that we've ever seen from Condi. He never played it back into the LPL. I believe it was played by 2 junglers domestically, MLXG and Bengi. So it is not a pick for the LPL. And I love what the casters were saying. You know, this idea that over the course of MSI, Team WE have been evolving or maturing as a team. They are no longer just that Elder Dragon late game team. They now have this early game, and they now have more picks.
Absolutely. The growth for this WE squad has been tremendous. It's also been great for the Gigabytes as well, again, from play-ins to now. I want to return to that first blood, this lane swap that the Gigabytes have been continuing to throw out against team. This time around, starting with the Raptor, getting 2 early kills onto their bot lane.
Yeah, we have to find some positives for Gigabyte Marines, and sadly, this is probably like the only one in the entire game. It's quite cheeky, actually.
They had some good skins.
Yeah, they had some nice skins. Using the grenade to get to an early experience advantage, so even if the Fizz kills something, and here, this is a Fizz with Ignite teleport. He doesn't have flash. Usually skills early as well. Really great punish.
I mean, Warlord's Bloodlust actually pretty key here in the chase down. But the big thing is, when you're playing against a team like this, has done lane swap multiple times, you have to realize that they're doing this and hold your skill point until you know what they're doing. If you held that skill point as the Fizz, you can Playful Trickster away and survive that.
100% agree. There's no excuse not to see that one coming. We'll say this, lane swaps almost never happen in the LPL. The only team that does it is
They don't happen anywhere.
Reverse.
For a good reason. They're bad when you scout them and you make the necessary precautions, like Azale saying.
Yeah.
A single ward, suddenly this Jin Woo is like trolling in the top lane, and you push for bot lane, you get a free turret, and suddenly you're 1,000 gold ahead.
Exactly. I think that's a very key point here. It's like, okay, the lane swap comes through, you get 2 early kills, and yet your ADC's being out CS by 30 at 10 minutes. Your top laner as well, because you swap him back when the wave is pushing away from him. So now you have a Galio who's staring across a Fizz who's got an experience advantage. What do I do at that point? It's not really Stark's fault.
Sounds like a nightmare. It's like, what do I do? I'm stuck in this lane. Then you try and roll, right? If you're the Galio, you try and go with the teleport, you know, with the ultimate. But it didn't work because they didn't have pushing lanes.
And they have no way to get the Galio in. You know, one of the things that I have been pretty vocal about with the Galio pick is I do like it as a pairing, right? Great with the Zed, great with the Fizz. You have ways in. Who's supposed to get the Galio into the backlines here? Is Graves supposed to like flash in on them or something? I mean, it just doesn't really work offensively ever.
Yeah, really didn't make sense as a composition. I'm looking at it, I'm like, yeah, Jin, I guess, could flash in and just deliver that one for him.
I mean, that wraps it up then. Maybe like let's just talk a little bit about the TSMG2 guys.
No, that's right. I'm going to shut you up because we're going to talk to one of the players. It's time to get some insight on that game, so let's pass it over to Shox. It's with WE's Man in the Jungle.
Thank you very much, guys. I'm joined here by Condi, who has led WE to the next round and also now secured the 2nd place in the rankings, which means that they will be avoiding SKT at least until the finals. And Condi, because of that 2nd place and with what you know about the other teams, what do you think of your chances of making it to the final and your expectations for the semifinal?
就恭喜你们锁定了小组第2，然后出现了，然后你们也第1轮也不会遇到 SKT 了。那么想问一下你，你觉得你们进入决赛的机会现在有多大？
我们的目标其实现在就是去决赛的。我觉得我们现在进决赛的可能性非常大吧。只要我们能保持好现在的状态，我觉得是没有问题的。
So their goal in this tournament is to make the final, and given what they are at this moment, their condition, they think they have a pretty good chance of making to the final.
Yes, I would agree with that. And Condi, you and Peanut have been 2 of the best junglers in this tournament. And I heard you speaking some strong words before the show in a video about the WE versus SKT matchup. Can you tell me about what that matchup specifically versus Peanut is going to be like for you?
就是大家认为你和 Peanut 现在是这个 MSI 里面最厉害的2位打野，然后你在赛前呢也放出了一些狠话。那么你觉得你在接下来这场和 SKT 对决中，你和 Peanut 会产生什么样的火花？
我觉得 SKT 感觉也是，就是 Peanut 在前期的带动点是比较强的，所以说，而且我们队也是，就是如果我拿到挺好的英雄的话，我们的前期节奏也会变得很好。我觉得我可能在前期的话会跟他产生一个比较大的一个斗争吧。
So he think SKT actually snowballed really well off Peanut's early game regression. So he think same for the WE, if they have comfort picks. They can really play a really good early game. So he think early game will be the key in their match against SKT.
All right, well, that will be a fantastic match to watch. I do quickly want to ask your opinion on the next match that come in, as it is a very important one for, deciding who will go on as well. It's TSM versus G2. What is your prediction and why?
那么接下来就是北美欧洲的宿命对决了。那你觉得哪支队会胜出呢？
其实我觉得 TSM 应该会更强一点吧。
原因
的话，因为我跟他们两个队都打过嘛，因为就是感觉就是 TSM 我觉得会更厉害一点。
So actually, they've been playing both teams already. So he felt like TSM has an edge over G2.
All right, well, we'll see if that comes through. Thank you very much, Condi. Congratulations so far. And we will be right back with G2 versus TSM. I can barely control myself, but you guys should stick around.
Not to be, and that's going to slow down his jungle path a lot. Not to mention,
so much damage. Last shot coming in. Over 7 ignited there. First blood again for GIGABYTE Marine. Caught out as well. Galiotti coming in and Lima back over the wall with a quick drop. But Archie already so low. Mystic snipes him barely with an auto attack in our 957. Taps to the back and takes down Optimus. So going to move forward, jumping onto a carry. Optimus going to get polymorph, but he's going to dive into the backline. CA takes out Slay with a shove, and 957 still living for a little while. Oh, so many shields. Mystic unstoppable. Takes one down. That's an ace for WE. Mystic far forward, shooting the open X as WE clinch second and take down the GIGABYTE Marines.